What's heavier for you, the responsibility or the loneliness?
Definitely the loneliness. Love the responsibility. I love it when my team comes to me or I come to my team and say, hey, we have a problem. The problem is X. Let's solve it together. And we've been doing it here at Hudson, right? We've been acquiring businesses to fill in gaps that we needed. We've established new entities and regions because our clients are asking us to come there. And those new entities bring in other issues like works councils or the right insurance structures and the right benefit packages for our employees that you want to attract to. So it's not the responsibility. It's really understanding that as a CEO, you have to make some very tough decisions that might be focused on the culture of the business or the financials of the business. It might not be both or could be both, but ultimately those decisions come down to you and people are looking at you to make those decisions.
Hi, I'm Christy, your host for Inside the C-Suite, where execs get real about leadership, impact, and what truly drives high-stake decisions. Most leaders spend their careers preparing for the CEO seat, but what happens when you finally get it? Today's guest spent a decade helping one of the most successful RPO businesses in the world at Korn Ferry before stepping into his first CEO role at Hudson Talent Solutions. Since then, he's been leading global growth, navigating AI disruption, and proving that talent acquisition isn't a support function, it's a business strategy. He's also a husband, father, outdoor enthusiast, and from what I hear, a pretty serious wine guy. Jake, welcome to Inside the C-Suite. Let's jump in. Jake, I am so excited to have you on Inside the C-Suite. This just feels like a long time coming. For those of you that are joining, I used to report to this wonderful man. I know my introduction did not do you justice. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and a little bit about what you do.
Christy, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me to your podcast. And I just want to share with you and for the viewers, Christy is such a inspirational leader, a brilliant mind, and also a great friend. So, Christy, thank you for having me and allowing me to join, right? But everybody's listening, Jake Zabkowicz. I am currently the CEO of Hudson Talent Solutions. I have had about 20 years in the talent acquisition industry, both on a regional and global scale, across all sectors of every single industry and across every single continent. So as we talk about uniquenesses in AI or hiring trends or what people encounter and how the TA team should be part of the strategy, it's been near and dear to my heart for many, many years. So Christy, thank you again so much and I'd love to join your podcast.
Look, I love this podcast because it brings minds like you front and center stage, available where other people can't access these leaders and learn the thought leadership that you bring. So let's start off with a little bit of fun. So I know that you're a wine guy. It's just part of working for you. So I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
What wine best describes your leadership style?
Ooh, I like a good full body cab and a good full body cab because you want it to be simple, but yet you want it to be complex. It has the different stages, right? At the very onset, you get the first taste and it's like great, fantastic, but it hits the back of your palate. And then you start developing a little bit more and a little bit more. And that goes back to all of my employees and team members, right? As we get in a leadership team, simplicity is great, but knowing that we live in this complex world and you try to make it as simple as possible for our employees, our clients, and our team members, right?
He's complex, guys. That's what he's saying. Okay, so what wine best describes your first 90 days as CEO? Or would that straight up be just boons?
Jeez. How about a flight of wines? Yeah, can I say a flight of different wines? Like I've been went for everything from the most simplistic Riesling to a very, very full-bodied Merlot that's just like happy and man, you need to sit down after a while. But I've gone through the full flight. And I would say the first 90 days of being a CEO, especially my first time in this role, is you don't know what you're getting into, right? Any company. It's not that I started the Hudson Talent Solutions business. I grew up with it. You're being thrown in by a board of directors and a chairperson to say, hey, we want to take the company this direction. We believe that you can help take us there, right? Now you need to get this company that's been around for 20 some years and you need to get them on board with you. Good luck, right? And we're going to support you. Listen, I would say I went through a full spectrum of wines, all the way from the crispest of Rieslings to the full body Merlots, but the journey is very interesting. And every single wine is a different chapter of what you have to do, right? And what you have, what you face and what you encounter. And I'll tell you, post COVID and the talent acquisition industry, it is a spectrum of wine in and of itself, right?
Do you remember coming together during COVID?
Oh my God. Co- Christy, we've had a long tenured relationship together, friendship together. And you think about how much we learned from COVID about a people aspect, right? End of the world's happening. No, it's not. We're going to develop, we're going to learn. Then you have to learn to work remotely on podcasts like this. I mean, if we didn't have COVID, would podcasts truly exist today? Probably, but not as prevalent as some of them are right now. But then getting back into the office and learning how to go back into the office 3 to 5 days a week and networking with people and having those water fountain conversations and those lunch meetings. It's a very unique case study. And I think 20 years from now, our grandkids and our great grandkids will be reading about it and how it impacted the world.
It's crazy. There's been some studies on the future of work, people coming up that were in school during COVID. My son graduated with his MBA. So I wasn't there to do all the special things that you would get to do during that process. I get to see him on a Zoom call, thank God for Zoom, a Zoom call to graduate, and his little head is shaved. He has a beautiful curly hair, and he just shows up. I'm looking at him. He's like just completely shaved because he tried to cut it and then messed it up and he had to shave it down. But it taught us a lot. I think for me, it was interesting to see how people navigated through that time. They either like leaned in and learned something new to kind of stay busy, or they kind of went the opposite direction. So I know I came out of COVID with a yoga training certificate, right? And meditation training certificate, because that's kind of where I went when I wasn't able to go to the gym anymore.
Yeah.
Did you learn any new skills during COVID?
I've relearned some skills, right? Art of reading a whole book from end to end.
Oh, yeah.
In my life, with my kids at the ages that they are, I would pick up a Harvard Business Review magazine. My life lived in segments of like 15 to 30 minutes. So I think relearning and reconnecting is something that I really took from COVID. Going on walks, seeing the neighbors, allowing the kids ride bikes again. And I would say even more being in touch as a leader, right? Being more in touch with what you want to do, but also what you can do, and understand that at the end of the day, in talent acquisition, what is our product? I say this all the time. What is our product, right? We're not selling cogs or widgets, not developing a new technology solution that I'm going to go B2C with. Our product is people, right? And
Yeah.
people have feelings, they have emotions, they have good days and bad days, they have families, they have kids, they have parents, they have all that stuff that unfortunately we have to be dynamic. And I think COVID reminded me and how dynamic we need to be versus transactional, if that makes sense.
Agree. No,
Yeah.
I do. I think it's the rise of humanity. I think that a lot of people really felt that within themselves and then also obviously in the world. And we're watching kind of that slingshot of how it's coming back to back in the office, all the different things, AI. I mean, we've had it, the world's had it for a little bit. So if I ask you about the first time being a CEO, reality check time, right? What's something about becoming a CEO that nobody warned you about?
Oh, all right. I'll give you two things. Thing number one, being a CEO is a title. It's a title that you earned in your career. It's a title that somebody entrusted with you. But at the end of the day, you're just a person, right? You as a CEO, me as a CEO, I have desires and wants, right? I know I want to take Hudson Talent Solutions as a company. Getting everybody on board with that is not as easy as what you expect, right? So I love it when people call me, right? Just pick up the phone and call, right? Like, hey, Jake, here's what I heard, or here's what you, whatever. I do quarterly town halls after our earnings calls because we are publicly traded. Quarterly town halls, and we've all been on town halls that are scripted, right? That you have to pre-give questions and the CEO would answer. And when I joined Hudson, I started these quarterly town halls, and our HR and marketing team came and said, "Hey, Jake, do you want pre-questions ahead of time, or do you want to take them on the spot?" I'm like, "No, take them on the spot." Again, we are in the business of people. So that was one thing being a CEO. And for those viewers and listeners, go to your CEO. I'm sure he or she has an open door policy or is accessible. And they want to hear from you as much as you want to hear from them, right? So that's one. And I would also share with you too, this is more personal as a CEO, is very lonely. And I mean that. Like, whatever you are in your stages of your career, right? If you're a director, or you're an individual contributor, or a manager, or a vice president, you have other people that you can commiserate with, bounce ideas off of. So as a first-time CEO, I found myself like, hold on a second, I really can't go to that person anymore because it doesn't make sense. So you have to find a network that you can truly just unload a little bit on, right? Because it is very lonely. You have to figure out a way to navigate that. And so a good network, a good group of other individuals in similar related industries or the same industry is very nice to have.
I giggled because for some reason you've always been able to read my mind because the very next question I had for you was what's heavier for you, the responsibility or the loneliness?
Oh God, definitely the loneliness. And here's what I'll share with you. Love the responsibility. I love it when, we say, hey, my team comes to me or I come to my team and say, hey, we have a problem, right? The problem is X. Let's solve it together. Right. And we've been doing it here at Hudson, right? We've been acquiring businesses to fill in gaps that we needed. We've established new entities and regions because our clients are asking us to come there. And those new entities bring in other issues like works councils or the right insurance structures and the right benefit packages for our employees that you want to attract to, right? So it's not the responsibility. It's really understanding that as a CEO, you have to make some very, very tough decisions and not popular decisions that might be focused on the culture of the business or the financials of the business. It might not be both or could be both. But ultimately, those decisions come down to you, and people are looking at you to make those decisions. Your employees, your board of directors, right? Your chairperson, your investors. So the loneliness or realizing that the buck stops with you and that proverbial quote unquote, it's tough sometimes because you have to make decisions that impact people's lives, especially in our industry where it's gone. But then you have to look at it and say, hey, well, I'm making these tough decisions, but that protects these thousands of jobs that I currently employ as a leader today. So I hope that answered your question, Christy. It's a
You
very personal question.
That's what we do, personal questions over here. So, who's the closest person in your corner?
Oh my Lord, my wife.
Yeah, I would assume that would be the
Yeah, my
answer.
wife for
How's
now.
that been for her watching you go through this transition?
So I've known my wife since we were in high school and we started dating in college and we got married right after college. And she's in the medical field. She's a practitioner, right? And believe it or not, what's interesting is that this weekend was the first official trip that she came on. She came with me from a company trip and met clients. And we were talking ahead of time. She was like, Jake, what do I need to wear? And what should we do? And I had my head of marketing kind of give her the layout of the event. So we did a client event at the FIFA World Cup match in New York this last weekend. And this was the first time. And we got back to the hotel room after the first dinner. And she was like, man, Jake, I didn't really realize. And we talked about it. And I've known you for majority of your life, super majority of your life. And I didn't realize that you always have to be out there and talking and visible. And so my wife is definitely the rock. My kids ask some really good questions, but I have a couple good mentors, right? A couple good CEOs that have retired. I'll pick up the phone and say, hey, here's what I'm hypothetically speaking. Here's what I'm dealing with. What would you do? Or here's what I'm thinking, right? So it's good to have that. But having a good support is critical, especially the world that we're navigating right now.
What I really appreciated about you when I was coming up is that you have a little bit of what I would call tough love. It's really like my mom used to say this, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So with you, when there was a challenge that would come up, you never put it as you didn't think somebody could accomplish it. But what I loved about your leadership is that you would say, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Yeah.
And you let us work through it together. So we knew to come to you, not ever with just a problem, but with what our point of view was and what our solution would be. And I've really, really appreciated that because personally that helped me grow. And it's one of my staples that I used with my team. So I never had a chance to tell you that, but I wanted to share that with you because it did impact the way I lead and how I guide other people. So thank you for that.
And Christy, thank you. And you amongst everybody else and the leadership that you bring, right? And we've talked about this before. And I'm a big movie guy too. I love wine. But wine pairs really well with movies, right? And this sounds really bad, but there's a movie with Matt Damon, The Martian. And you know the movie, right? The Martian, they go on Mars. He gets stuck on Mars for a big storm. And at the end, I mean, no spoiler alert, but he makes it back, right? There's a lot of stuff. Makes it back. And he's teaching a bunch of students at a college. And somebody asked, like, how did you do it? I think he said two things. He says he had science the hell out of it, right? Because science was a big part of getting back. But at the end of the day, you solved the problem and then you moved on. You solved another problem and you moved on, right? We as humans think that we multitask, we can do certain things. Yeah, we can multitask, but solve a problem, move on. Going back to what we're talking about leadership and about thinking your way, I think my way is the right way all the time, right? That's what we automatically do. But there might be 4 or 5 ways to get to that end result. And it allows that individual, allows that team to come up with their ideas, but solve a problem and move on is the best attitude I can give as well.
We have solved many problems and moved on. So I love that. So, look, I know that you spent 10 years helping grow someone else's business, a place that we both come from, that we both adore. How different is it when every decision ultimately lands on your desk?
I hate to say this, but I try as a CEO from every decision not to land on my desk. Like I try to delegate, bring in the right team to be able to do that. And I actually asked my leaders and I asked them to ask their leaders, like, hey, if you come to me with a problem, give me 2 or 3 solutions. Let me be that ear to help, going back to what you're saying, solve it with you versus, hey, what do you want to do? Now, there are a lot of things that do come on across my desk that like after, yep, this is the direction we're going. Yes, we're acquiring this company. Yes, we're moving into this geography, this region. Yes. But if I look at it and the growth and the people and the company, what's the big difference or what's the main focal point? I think it's the people that you bring together and the people that will sit down at your King Arthur round table all the nights and put your swords down. You guys are all equals and you guys are all being part of that, about that business and what's happening. So whether growth is in one company versus the other, you are challenged by the environment. You are challenged by your employees. You're challenged by your clients. And how do you navigate that is the best way that I'm finding myself navigating Hudson versus my previous employer.
Oh, that's a great answer. What belief about leadership did you have at Corn Ferry that completely changed when you became CEO at Hudson?
Oh, what belief. You have all the answers.
Right? You learn that one real quick. It's lonely and you don't know everything.
I can tell you unequivocally, as a CEO, you don't have all the answers right there at your fingertips. But what
Yeah.
I find myself doing, Christy, now is asking more questions. Ask more questions. And what I try to do is if I'm in a meeting with a bunch of my directs or their directs, I try to speak last. I don't want to speak first. I'll introduce myself. I'll say hi, or I'll kick off the meeting and say, guys, I'll be in the backdrop, right? But it's more about listening and bringing it in and then making some decisions. So I think that's a piece. Like you don't have all the answers, but your job as a CEO is to try to go and get them. Either
Yeah.
getting them from osmosis through your team, getting them from asking the right questions. And the other piece I would say is sometimes making the wrong decision is better than making no decision,
Oh, amen.
right? Got to make a decision,
Hmm.
go with it and test it out. And if it's the wrong decision, pivot. If it's the right decision, great. But staying sedentary is never good.
You win some, you learn some.
I think Vince Lombardi has a quote, winning is not a sometimes thing, it's an all the times thing, right?
Hmm.
Winning is contagious. You got to get there and you have to make some of those tough decisions.
I love that. So I believe, I don't know what your thought is, but I believe talent acquisition is having an identity crisis.
Mm.
With AI, recruiters nervous about losing their job. So you've said many times that talent acquisition must evolve from filling roles to enabling business outcomes. What does it actually look like to you?
It's interesting. The last, say, 8 years of our industry have been probably the most pivotal than any other 10, 15, 20 years beforehand. And I actually think the next couple years might be even more pivotal. And what I mean by that is if you look at what you've had with artificial intelligence, or you look at the geopolitical issues, you look at the pandemic, you look
Mhm.
at the great resignation, the great hesitation, whatever the job hugging that we're in right now, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to really call what we are right now, right? I would say the biggest thing for me, and when I look at where we're going to and how it needs to, we need to be more dynamic. It's not about filling roles anymore. I mean, remember you and I working together, it's like sourcing, like, okay, finding candidates, going to your Rolodex, dating myself. Let's go through the Rolodex. Yeah, anybody can find Christy Honeycutt. Anybody can find me, right? On LinkedIn, on your social networks, etc. But it's getting those candidates' attention. It's saying, hey, a company, yes, you're moving from a remote business now to more on site. Well, during COVID, going remote, you had a big pool of candidates. You can fish anywhere in the world, right?
Mhm.
Now you need them in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Well, guess what? Your pool shrunk. But you're still expecting to catch that blue whale. Let me tell you guys,
Mhm.
there's not a blue whale in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You might have some king salmon in Lake Michigan, but you don't have the blue whale, right? So where I'm going with this is that you have to set the right expectations with the business,
Mhm.
more information, be more dynamic. And I would say, and I really mean this, make your team and get to the human aspect of it. Sit down. Okay, here's the challenge. Here's what we're trying to do. And it's not just about filling roles anymore. It's about workforce plan. It's about learning and development. It's about the EVP and brand, getting people in. And I find my recruitment team, they are recruiters by trade, but they're also, I would hate to say it's, but therapists by night. And what I mean by
Oh,
therapist, like,
100%.
following up with people, right? Hey, how's your job going? You've been in role for 2 weeks, 2 months, last year. Tell me, how are things going, right? There's a lot of that going on.
You know, it's funny, and I know you know this, but I don't believe that companies that we serve or have served understand how hard recruiters go for their brand and for their people. I can't tell you how many conversations I had with recruiters because they wanted Bob and they thought Bob was great and he met all the requirements and they were invested in Bob. And the client was like, I don't like Bob because he didn't have 4 years at this college or whatever the situation was. It never failed to see their hope and their humanity for every candidate that they interface with, like, their heart's in that. Do
Right.
you find that as well?
Absolutely. I mean, being a recruiter, and I mean, who goes to college to become a recruiter? Exactly. Every recruiter you talk to, did you go to school for that? No. Did you know you want to be that in high school? No. You kind of fall
Mhm.
into, and so you put your heart and soul into it. But the recruiter is a salesperson. They're a brand person. They're a strategy person. They're a people person. They're a technology person. What we require of our recruiters for compliance now and tracking the applicant tracking system, and now expecting to leverage AI and help drive and build bots or your agents, not bots, but your agents to help their workflow. I mean, it's amazing what we expect. But at the same time, too, Christy, going back to the original question, our environment is going to continue to evolve with the political, geopolitical issues, the social unrest, all that stuff. That's the new norm. The new norm is controlled chaos. The new norm is it's going to continue to happen. How do we find the best talent for the best companies, and how do we marry those two up together? And how are we okay with it? And what to expect with it?
Yeah, there's so much that goes into that. It always cracks me up when you hear the different functions that we would serve, right? In HR, you'd have retention is a huge thing, and you'd always have the finger pointing. Oh, it's HR's fault, or it's talent acquisition's fault. They didn't hire the right person. And I was always of the state of mind. No, it's actually the manager's responsibility. Like
Right.
once they have it, because outside of your kindness of your recruiters reaching out, going, "How's it going? Are you still liking it?" They don't have a lot of influence at that point. So to your
Right.
point, yes, they're marketing and they're attracting and they're out there pounding the pavement trying to get people to pay attention with their eyeballs and earballs that this job, this brand matters and that's why they should come over.
Right. Right. Yeah. And if I look at where things are going now, or where my crystal ball is telling me, and I have a lineup of crystal balls back here, what is it telling me? But the way I look at it is we have to continue to be more agile in our delivery,
Yes.
more cost conscious and where to leverage, and then more just human. And even as a CEO, being more human of saying, hey, yes, I had to make these tough decisions, or yes, we're moving the company in this direction and we've been going this way for many, many years, but now we're pivoting and we're going to move towards a more digital platform, or we're going to be moving towards more on-site versus remote. We have to understand that if we don't keep up with the demands of our clients and our partners and the businesses that we support, we're going to be left alone. We're going to be left to the wayside, right? And we can't have that happen.
Mhm. So let me ask you this. If I walked into a boardroom in 2026, what are the smartest CEOs doing differently around talent? What are they doing differently in 2026 than they were doing in 25? And what do you project that they're going to do in 27 and on?
So adoption of digital solution is a must for any companies that are not leveraging a digital platform, an AI platform, and more automation. You can get away with it right now. You really can. You're not going to be able to get away with it in the next couple of years. I'm still of the school where I know we need to do that, but I get on the phone, I call my insurance provider and I speak to an agent. I keep on hitting 0 to talk to a live person. That's my thought, right, Christy? That's
This
right.
this is me. Human. I just want to speak to a human. I get so irritated.
0, 0, 0, 0, right? But our kids are not. And so this is a
Yeah.
change curve. They're more used to working on the digital. So as they get to older, they're going to be more adapting of it and it's going to take off even further. So I think CEOs need to think about the digital aspect. And if they're not doing it, they should, but they should be thoughtful about it. Like I've had some CHROs that have said, hey, we have to leverage AI for 90% of our hiring. No, you don't. And then I would highly advise against doing that, right? However, more automation helps make redundant tasks. Yes. But the other thing is don't get stale. I had a leadership meeting a couple weeks ago and we were talking about the talent acquisition playbook. Christy, you and I built a talent acquisition playbook.
I'm having PTSD right now.
Right?
Yes.
Right? We did, right? It's like, hey, this is the playbook you need to execute. And now I find myself as the coach of this company or the owner of the company or the whatever role you want to play, right? We have to redevelop the playbook. whether it's leveraging more in brand or your location or strategy or entity strategy or digital strategy, bringing that together. And what you can't do is you can't run a bunch of complex plays because then you lose the team. And you can't run a bunch of simple plays because guess what? That's not going to get you to the end zone. So you have to have a very dynamic playbook in front of you. And CEOs and the CHROs and heads of talent need to think about just because they did something that they worked for them the last 10 years, last 5 years, last 2 years, or in the last year, promise you it's not going to continue to work. So develop that playbook and reinvent that playbook and rethink that playbook, but it needs to be balanced, right? It needs to be measured.
I love that. Did you see the article about IKEA over the weekend? How they deployed a bunch of for their lower level task,
Yeah.
which was ended up being customer service.
Sure.
And they ended up taking the same individuals. They didn't lay a single person off. They took the same individuals that were in customer service and are now upskilling them to be design assistants. So they automated that work, but they didn't offload. Instead, they leaned in so they could do more sales and more consulting with the client base. I think we're going to see their sales go up just from that move.
I think it's smart business. I mean, I worked with a company and this was about 9 months ago already. And we talked about their AI strategy, their digital strategy. So what's the strategy? It's like, Jake, we want to leverage digital to remove the quote unquote, the soul destroying work that our employees.
And that.
I'm stealing that. I'm going to use that. I've used it 2 dozen times in the last like 2 months. You leverage digital, leverage automation, leverage that stuff that removes the soul destroying work that we as humans have to do. And then allow them to grow, allow them to take on different tasks, allow them to be more creative and support your company and your business in a different angle they may have not been beforehand.
Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so great. I know that a lot of people are fearful of AI, and I really like how you answered it. And I think we have kind of the thought leadership, the same thought leadership around it. What human skill becomes more valuable and not less in an AI world?
Oh, what humans compassion,
Yeah, I agree.
right? Compassion, understanding, just that truly that human element. I've seen agents now, they can do the pauses, like they can pause
Mhm.
now and they can do that stuff. They can stutter a little bit. They can have the different dialects and the languages and everything else, but the truly that compassion and taking that story and being able to do that and relaying it back and that human element that, I mean, maybe AI might be able to do that in years to come. I don't know. Okay, right? If you look at any of the future movies out there, like with Will Smith and all that other stuff, you might see that, right? But compassion is still something that I think people are missing. And like I said, we just did one of our first big client events here at Hudson this last weekend, and we got a bunch of clients together with some of our employees, and for 2 days of just talking, just hey, what's going on? Not about business, right? Could be about business, but more about what's going on in the world, what's happening with the families. Let's go anchor it to an event. So we anchored this event to the World Cup match in New York, which was great. And it's just the compassion and then the passion that came out of it was phenomenal.
The thing that I've learned the most is that relationships are the number one. No one owns your relationship. Not an employer, not a spouse, not a friend. No one owns the relationships that you have. You show up, they're yours. And for me, that's what's really kind of come front center with all of this is we can move as fast as we can, but at the end of the day, like I mean, it's been years since we've worked together, right? But I still feel like I can pick up the phone and call you if I have a challenge and hopefully vice versa. So those situations that you're curating for your clients and for your team, I hope they know how incredibly precious and sacred that time is because it does make a difference.
But like anything else, you reflect on it later on. You don't realize it in the moment, right? You never realize
Mhm.
unless you get later on in your career, like you sit back. I had one of those moments this weekend where I sat back and everybody's watching the match and they're like networking and the relationships we're developing. I'm like, this is what we're here for. Clients talking to each other, which is all that would never talk to each other before. Believe it or not, we had a lot of old employees of mine that were there as clients, and it's a completely different relationship, right? And it's there. So yeah, it's a good call out. Very good call out.
How does that feel? How does that feel to
Oh,
have some
proud,
old employees of yours that are
proud.
now trust you so much that now they're your clients?
Proud. I get to see their careers explode. I've had recruiters that used to be on my team in a previous life that are now global heads of TA. I've had old clients of mine in previous life, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, that have come and now they're clients in a different role. Like I'm proud of it. I'm going back to the relationships, but also development and seeing those individuals, those people then now start networking me through. And actually one of our individuals that joined us brought their son to come see it. And that was
Oh,
really cool. As a leader and as a CEO and as a human being, seeing this the generational shift was just phenomenal.
I love that. Okay, I've got a couple of lightning round questions for you. I'm
Good.
going to end with the zinger.
Okay.
So, best leadership lesson you learned from a bad hire?
Ooh, setting expectations up front.
Best leadership lesson you learned from a great hire? And it would be me. What's your
Giving them enough runway to make great decisions, giving them the autonomy to spread their wings and go.
love, love, love. And one thing your kids would say that you need to work on.
But my kids, my way is not always the right way.
And then most overrated leadership trait.
Most overrated leadership trait. Wow, that's a hard one. Communication. Interesting that you say that, communication. And because you have to navigate, and I'll explain this. I know it's a rapid question, but I'm going to expand on this real quick. But you have to communicate just enough to get people to buy in, to understand what you're doing and everything else. But you also can't communicate too much to get them worried about what happens if it doesn't happen. Like you have to
Mhm.
thread that needle. And so we get into this world of leadership and you're told, hey, communicate, communicate, communicate. And I'm also realizing this, well, I said, like, yeah, you do have to communicate, but
Mhm.
you have to do it in chunks and in pieces and at a level that you don't lose your audience,
Yeah.
and be careful about that. And we both work for leaders that would, like, at the end of the meeting, you're like, what the heck did that person just like hold like I lost you when he kicked off the meeting and you're over here and we're over here. And I see that a lot. And even as a CEO, it's like you have a broader picture, but you need to figure out a way to communicate. So is that the most overrated? I would say that's the finest thing that you have to thread through, and not just to say you have to communicate everything because you should.
Yeah, I heard context in that, which is a whole thing. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, I have one final question for you, and then I'm going to ask you to close us out. So, imagine your grandchildren
Mhm.
are listening to this episode 30 years from now. What's the leadership lesson you hope they remember about you?
Don't be afraid.
Oh, I like that.
Don't be afraid. And here's what I mean by that is at the end of the day, we are people. Like I
Yeah.
said, I got this on. At the end of the day, yes, you hold a title as a CEO, you hold a title as a CHRO or a CFO or director or whatever. The title is just a title. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Don't be afraid to go on a limb and don't hesitate. Be dynamic. Take a gamble. As I shared with you earlier in this conversation, sometimes no decision is better, is worse than making the wrong decision. Make a decision, go with it, because then you can pivot, right? Don't be afraid. And I think that as we think about leaders and we do this, and I shared this with you before, Christy, too, and we were working together, ask for forgiveness. Don't be afraid. You're put in that role as a leader because somebody saw that those characters in. They wanted to give you more autonomy. Sometimes you just have to ask for forgiveness. Don't make multiple wrong mistakes. If you get your hand slapped a little bit, maybe don't ask for forgiveness again the next time. But, take that chance.
You just made me think of my most fond memory of you. I don't know if you're going to remember this. I get a phone call from you, and I'm with a client at a nightclub. And it's like, do, 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 do. I come out to talk to you, right? It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm like putting in the extra hours over here. I come out to talk to you, and you're like, where are you? Because it was in the middle of the day where you were. And I go, well, what do you mean, where am I at? I'm in Malaysia. And you go, oh, yeah, you were calling to give me a promotion.
I remember that.
Well, and so like you're screaming and I'm screaming trying to hear you. And so I went back in and celebrated, but
Yeah.
that's the human side of what we do. It was one of my favorite memories of you. It just flashed. I had to share it.
I appreciate that. And it's interesting, and we work in this global world, and I love it that you were always one, and the team would always pick up the phone. You try to be respectful of the boundaries of time and everything else, but to your point, you're in Malaysia, then you're in South America, then you're in Europe. I'm like, okay, like where's Waldo? Where's Christy Honeycutt today? Right. And look at your career now, which is fantastic. And I love to see that. And thank you for inviting me to be a part of this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
No, thank you. Like I learned so much from you and I am so grateful to have you on. As we wrap up, I do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, our community's heart, for the work that you and your team do and for holding sacred space for us today. Is there anything you'd like to leave with the audience and how can they get a hold of you?
I would say two things. Lead with the audience is we are in the business of people. Don't forget that. this digital evolution, skills based versus experience based on CVs, return to work. At the end of the day, we are just people. We have to get the best out of people, right? That's one. How to get a hold of me? Jake.Zabkowicz at hudsontalent.com. Find me on LinkedIn. I try to keep my social presence on a limited form. So LinkedIn is probably the best on social, but feel free to send me an email. And I'm usually pretty responsive on emails within a couple of days. But again, Christy, thank you for the platform. Thank you for bringing this platform for other CEOs and other people to understand and have that human element. That's critical. And very excited to see your career and your new book and everything else. And so I'm really excited to see that come out. And everybody, Christy is a thoughtful leader, an inspirational leader, awesome individual. And again, appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much. So for those of you that have listened, if you've enjoyed this, please go connect with this gentleman, like, follow, and subscribe to Inside the C-Suite. And if you know of anybody else you'd like to see in the hot seat, shoot me a message. Ciao.
Bye, guys.